Hi, this is Adam from Inflectra, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to import requirements and test cases from an Excel sheet. So first of all, we're going to have to use SpiraTest, which is right here, and I've logged in with the System Administrator account. You can use any account that has permissions to create and modify requirements and test cases. But for safety, if this is a demo system, I would just use the sysadmin account to start with. And what we'll do is create a new project to import into. So that way we know that for sure what's being imported and it doesn't get mixed up with our other items. So go to View Edit Projects, click on the Add button, and we'll do Sample Excel Import Project. And once that's created, we should then go in and select it. So find the project, click on the Select button right here on the right. It will highlight in blue. And then you can go to Project Membership, and I'm going to add a couple of users to this account. So I'm going to add Fred Blogs as a manager, and I'm going to add Joe Smith also as a manager, and hit Add. So I've got my project. Now the next thing I'll need to do is get an Excel sheet. So going to the Add-ons and Downloads section of the Inflectra website, under SpiraTest, Add-ons and Downloads, there's two things you'll need. First, you need to actually install the MS Office add-ins. And there's different versions depending on which version of Office you're using. That will install the toolbar for Excel, Word, and MS Project in a single go. You might also need the Microsoft Visual Studio Tools for Office prerequisite runtime. If you install it and that's not present, it will actually warn you and let you download it. Once you've that installed, which I did ahead of time, you'll also need the SpiraTest Excel import template. And again, choose the matching version that matches the same number. So we'll choose this version right here. And then you can open it up in Excel. And it looks something like this. And this is our template. Now, to make sure you have the add-in correctly installed, you should see an add-in tab right here. Click on the Connect button and choose the URL to your SpiraTest or SpiraTeam instance. Use the login and password that you'll do the import with and click Connect. After a few seconds, it will connect and it will default the project and the artifact type. So we're going to import into our sample import project, so do change that. And we'll start off with requirements. So we can leave the second drop down the same. Now each artifact has a tab in the spreadsheet. So I'm going to go to requirements. And if I scroll across, you'll see here's some requirements. Now to make it a bit easier to follow what's going on, I'm going to clear the sheet and enter in my requirements. So I hit clear, hit yes. And now I want to enter some requirements in. Now the Excel sheet will follow the indent structure that you put the requirements in when it does the import. So when I start to enter my requirements, let's say functional requirements, I'm going to create perhaps creation module and an update module like that. Notice that these are indented one position from the top. That's because the data in the sheet before was already indented. So I could actually simulate what you'd get by just outdenting everything using the indent and outdent right here. And then we want to create, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3. And similarly, in the update module, feature 4, feature 5, and feature 6. Now the indent and outdent structure is not correct yet, so I'm just going to undo what's already on the page just to reset everything. And when you clear the sheet, it'll probably be in a similar position, so I'd recommend doing that as well. And then click on the button to put these all one level in, and then the 3 features here, and these 2 here. Okay, so that's the requirement name. Now, the ID field, which is the first field, that must be left blank. If you don't, the import template will try and update the item in SpiraTest or SpiraTeam. And since this is a brand new requirement, it doesn't exist and will throw an error. If you want to assign it to a release when you're doing the import, that's fine. As you can see on the tooltip, it should be using the version number. Now, if we go back to our project, we don't have any releases yet. So let's go ahead and just create 2 releases so we can use that. So we go in here, and I'll insert a release, another release, and I'm going to create release 1.0 and release 2.0. Hit save. Now if I go back to my spreadsheet, I can put in here the versions. So let's say the creation module is going to be in version 1.0 and all of its sub-features. And the update module will be in 2.0, but maybe not all of them, just so we can verify. Okay. The type of requirement we can choose from the drop-down or enter the text. We'll make them all features for right now. And the priority, we guess optional. Let's put some priorities in just to test it. I'm just picking some ones randomly, but you could choose the ones that make sense for you. The status is also required, and that should be initially requested for all of them, because these are all new features. If you already have a requirement being migrated that's already been worked on or completed, you could choose a different status. Now that's the only field you have to fill in. You can also fill in the estimate. So if that's a 1.0 estimate and that's a 2.0 estimate, you can put that in. If you want to assign it to a user in SpiraTest, you could choose an author and put the author ID in. So that could be the user ID, the owner ID. So for example, I know that user ID 2 is Fred and he's in the project. I can make him the author and the owner. If you don't choose an owner, it will be left blank. If you don't choose an author, it will default to the user doing the import, which was system admin. I can also link to other requirements in the project that are already in existence. Now, since we don't have any, we can't do that because it's a brand new project. But if we wanted to, we could do like 1, 2, 3, and that would link them. If you want to add an initial comment to the requirement, you can add something in the comment field. So initial comment will say, this looks great. And then lastly, if you're doing custom fields, you can import any of your 30 custom fields right here. We haven't defined any in this project, so we won't do that and leave those blank. Okay, so now we're going to hit the add-ins tab and do the export option, and exports to Spira from Excel. Hit the button, and it's now doing the import. And if it works, you'll see the numbers start to appear in each of the rows. That's the requirement ID that was created. And if you run it a second time and leave that populated, it will update those requirements. Great. If we go into Spira Team, requirements, you will see there's our imported data, with the priority set to high and medium and critical and low. The release is set, the type is set to feature. Now notice that some of the requirements have gone planned. That's actually because we set a release. And by doing so, SpiraTest has overridden the requested status with planned, because SpiraTest has a rule that if you assign a release, it auto-plans it. Now you can turn that feature on or off if you don't want it to do that. Okay, so that's our requirements. Next, we're going to test cases. Now, test cases, we also don't have anything in the system right now, so that makes it easy to see what's going on. We're going to go into the spreadsheet and go to the test case tab. And there's again some data in here. To make it easier to see what's going on, I'm going to go to test cases and I'm going to clear the sheet. And I'm going to create 2 test cases with some steps. So let's just keep it simple. You can create folders in here too. I'm actually not going to bother. I'm just going to do test cases and I'll create the folders afterwards. So the test case name will be, ability to log into the system. And then description, we don't need that. Priority, I guess we'll give it 1 high. Type is a functional test. And status would be, it's a draft test case. We've got to review it. I can also link it to requirements if I want. So I can link it to requirement 72. That's the one here. So I'll put that in. That'll link it automatically for me. We haven't defined any components, so I'll leave that blank. We have got releases, so I'll put in release 1. We haven't got a test set, so I'll leave that blank. I'll leave the owner blank as well, but I could put a user ID in. And the row type, this is really important. You have to tell it to test case. Okay, now we're going to add some steps. So next row, you choose step. And in fact, I'm going to create 3 steps. That will block off the left-hand side, which is the test case information, and will open up the right-hand side. Now notice I've left the test case number blank here. That's so it does an import rather than an update. If I scroll over to the right, this is the test step column right here. We'll also leave that blank. That way it knows to create test steps fresh. Don't put in 1, 2, or 3 like this. People think you want to do that because it's the first, second, and third step. That won't work. That will actually prevent it from working. You need to leave those blank and SpiraTest will populate that for you. So the description will be, what is this step about? So that's easy enough. We go in here and say, click on the login link. The next step would be enter username and password. And the last one would be click submit. And the expected result would be, click on the login link, login page loads. Expected results, data is accepted, and the third one would be user is logged in. Obviously this is quite simple, you can make it more elaborate. We'll go to another step, just another test case, just to create a second one. And this will be ability to log out of the system. Now note, it has indented this from the previous text that was on the page. Since these are top level test cases, you should outdent it. Otherwise it will try and find a parent folder and will fail. So I'll choose high, functional, let's say it's a regression, doesn't really matter. We'll choose draft and we'll choose 1.0, like that. And then we'll add that to test case. Next, we're going to create 2 steps. We'll keep it simple. One will be click on the logout link, and the other one will be verify the page you are on. So you click on the logout link, the user is logged out, user is turned to login page. So those are our 2 test cases. I've linked one to a requirement right here. I've linked them both to releases. So that's a test case import for 2 test cases. So to do that, we go back to our add-ins tab. And the first thing we do is make sure we have changed the artifact type to test cases or it will not work. And then click the export button and it will now add the data. You'll see it popping the IDs in both the test case and test step columns. And if I go into SpiraTest, I hit refresh, I've got 2 test cases, looks perfect. If I click on one, you'll see right here, this is the first one. It has 3 steps. Click on the link, enter username and password, click submit. And if you go to requirements coverage, it is linked to one of the features that I linked to, RQ72. So that import looks pretty good. The last thing I want to do is put it into a folder. So that's easy. Click add, create a folder, will be new test cases, something like that. Hit the add button. And then I can just click on the folder, nothing in it, that's easy. Go back here, and I can just do select, and drag. And there we go. I now have 2 test cases with steps in my folder. So that's how you import requirements and test cases from a spreadsheet into SpiraTest. If you're interested in more information on SpiraTest, please check out our SpiraTest playlist. And if you'd like more information on testing and test management, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks so much.